What's up, viewers and subscribers? Welcome to Gamercast MS. This is a top 10 by Mikkel instead because Sebastian has some other things to do. This time we will be counting down horror games of all time, so let's get into it. Shall we not? Number 10. Starting on our list isn't the first Slender, the 8 pages. It is Slender the Arrival. This game has everything a Slender game should have. A better storyline, better atmosphere. First time you play it, it is frightening. The second time is okay, it is still scary. And the third time is like, it is like walking in the park at night. Number 9. Like Slender the Arrival, this game outlasts. It's something you cannot explain to your friends. First time you play it, the first 30 minutes, it is so terrifying. But as soon you begin to predict the enemy's moves and all that, it is not that terrifying anymore. Jump scares will occur now and then, but again, seen before, but it still deserves a place on this top 10. Because the game still has some freaky deaky atmosphere to it. An abandoned asylum, not abandoned, there's of course monsters and enemies lurking around each corner, but you can never know which one they will be lurking from. Number 8. So this is not a joke, the first horror game I ever played was Fear. This game still gets me to this day, because you're chased down by this little sweet girl in a red dress, but at the same time you are hallucinating a lot with enemies around you, weird things happening, chairs moving and all that, but you still cannot explain what is happening exactly. It has some intense moments with gunfights between enemies and you, and the moments when you're walking alone in isolated places with horror constantly happening around you. Number 7. So I know where the developers took the inspiration for Penumbra was actually watching the franchise of The Thing. And it's because in The Thing you cannot trust anyone who has become infected by this virus. And I think they took the same idea for Penumbra and just carried on with their own story. And you are the son trying to find your father in a snowy place. I can't actually recall where the base is located, but you'll find an isolated base where your father is said to be working at. When you enter that place, you begin to experience hallucination, you begin to witness wolves everywhere and monsters. You cannot trust anyone beside yourself, and it makes you wonder, am I a monster as well? The story-driven atmosphere makes Penumbra unique. Number 6. Okay, picture this. Close your eyes. You're a man or a woman. We need job. All need to work. Oh, alright. You get this job off from a guy, I don't know, a random guy saying you can work on a station on Mars. You say, hell, why not? And you accept this job offer and you come up to the space station, and the first 5 to 10 minutes you meet new people and they're like, oh, that's cool, you can play the arcade game Turkey Slaughter or something, and you begin to love it. You're saying this is my favorite job of all time, you want to work here to the end. When the 10 minutes pass or 20, something really fucked up happens at that base. And the first thing you do is pick up the first weapon you will see, and you just blast your way through waves and waves of zombies and demons on an abandoned space station. And this is where Doom 3 comes in. It is what makes Doom 3 unique. It is much better than Quake 4. It is much better than the Quake itself. I know Quake is an arena shooter, but the Quake 4 was actually focused on the same element as Doom 3, but didn't succeed because it didn't have the same atmosphere to it. It had this Mars station abandoned by, and was, you know, the leftover meals for demons who were hungry for flesh, blood and all that. And Doom 3 was terrifying a lot. I know it was a shooter, but at the same time it had so many horror experiences, like the mirror experience where you walked in and you begin to look in the mirror on yourself, and suddenly you just begin to witness yourself and blood and all that. This game is a must try if you're a horror fan. Number 5. So Condemned. I'm not even joking about this, but I played it for 30 minutes and I quit playing it again, mainly because this game still haunts me to this day. So if you're looking for a fresh title and all that, I would probably recommend Condemned like I did with Doom 3. It is really worth the money, and it is worth your time, so go check it out. Number 4. So I'm like, you know, I was born in 1996, and I'm, you know, 19 and all that, and I didn't have the chance to play the first Resident Evil. So recently, when they announced the remake of Resident Evil for the next gen consoles, or the current gen, I'm sorry about that, I had to give it a try. And oh boy, I missed out a lot when I was a child. It is so awesome, this game. It has everything that makes Resident Evil a good game. The survival horror element, you couldn't carry over thousands of things in your bag. Walking around, defeating zombies, the big snake, the big fight with the giant at last and all that. It had consequences where if you didn't save that guy, you would get a bad ending and all that. This game is worth the money. Even though the camera is still a little bit messed up, this game still deserves a place on this top 10. Go check it out if you haven't. Number 3. So, like I mentioned before, I didn't get the chance to play Resident Evil when I was a kid. But Dead Space was the first real survival horror game I played. You know, Fear was the first horror, while Dead Space was the first survival horror game. And this game still gets me to this day. It's terrifying, and this is not a joke. When I was playing it for the first time around, I played it for like 10 minutes. I quit the game, played another game, and returned the following day, playing it again 10 minutes, and continued that way, you know, to get to the end. But still, it gets me to this day. When you first encountered the enemies, you were terrifying. It was, you know, like Resident Evil over again when you were playing the first one, you know, zombies. It's a new thing, you haven't seen that before in a game. Like this in Dead Space, you haven't seen these I think they call them necromancers. You haven't seen this before in a game. And the atmosphere, you're in an abandoned spaceship out in the empty space. There's no one to help you beside yourself. You cannot trust even your friendly AIs in that game, because they will backstab you when you least expect it and all that. This game is still one of the best survival horror games out to date. Number 2. I think most of you saw this coming. You know, I mentioned Penumbra was one of my favorite horror games out there in the new generation, because it had so many elements. Amnesia took the same thing and this, you know, the good thing from Penumbra, and carried out to the more old style horror games where you're this guy got amnesia, waking up in a castle, and you're just wandering through this empty castle trying to find a way out. But the problem here is that your hallucination is more terrifying in this game than Penumbra. You begin to witness monsters you cannot, you know, look away from. It is a real monster or your mind playing tricks on you. And you're the man just walking around with a lantern, trying to solve puzzles now and then, and trying to, you know, continue forward to the end. Amnesia is still one of the best horror experience you could get from a horror game. And it is because you couldn't see that far in the distance. And you're probably thinking where I'm getting to with the number 1 when I'm talking about how far you can see in the distance, because you'll be surprised, and no, not really. A quick honorable mention. So Fatal Frame, I haven't even played it by myself because I hate Japanese horror stories and all that. But you're this girl walking around in a house, and the only weapon you can carry is a camera. When you see something, you need to take a picture of this ghostly image you will encounter. That is the only way you can defeat them. Fatal Frame is, what I have seen, is a really horrifying experience you can get. If you really like all the Japanese horror movies, Fatal Frame is a must pick. And number 1. PT for PlayStation 4 is still one of the most horrifying. I'm just fucking kidding. If Silent Hills was ever created by Konami, thank you a lot Konami, we will get the best horror game to date. But PT is still a demo for me, so I can't even put this on number 1. So I have to go with Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 is still one of the most horrifying games you can find out there. Even if you ask the gaming community what horror game they will recommend, most people like me will recommend Amnesia, but most of them will definitely recommend Silent Hill 2, and now and then I'm actually on that list as well. Silent Hill 2 has all the element you will fear from a game if you are all alone in a lost city. Fog everywhere, you cannot see that far. You can only see 2 meters away, and then suddenly, out of nowhere, an enemy just attacks you and you need to carry a weapon, or else you will die by that enemy. There are horrifying creatures lurking in the dark. You cannot see them, you need to solve puzzles. You need to find the, the conclusion what happened to the city. So yeah, that was my top 10 horror games. If you enjoyed this video, why don't you hit that subscribe button down there, like and share. So you can stay tuned for more videos by GamerCast, which mean more live action videos, more top 10s, and more let's plays. Yeah, have a nice day out there, and see you on Monday on a good old time. Bye bye. Have a nice day. Bye.